There's a number of things experienced players are doing right now in Genshin Impact, and 3 of these strategies will help you out no matter how far you're into the game. The first thing a lot of experienced players like to do is get the best value for each resource they spend. And this is even more relevant strategy for those who are light spenders or even free-to-play players, since even if MiHoYo keeps releasing new events with free resources, there's still a lot of time and resin needed for a character to stand on their own besides providing utility. And what's even more important to understand is that if you're seriously considering doing Spiral Abyss, you will need a team of 8 characters, where 2 of them at least need to be very good damage dealers, but even then, you will need to have a viable team to survive enemy attacks and deal enough damage to clear the time trial floors. And one of the things that might seem like a good idea at first would be to max out your 5-star artifacts. While it's true that the possibility of acquiring a strong artifact is very slim, even for heavy spenders in the game, the strategy to upgrade your 5-star artifact to its max level 20 threshold is actually a very expensive venture that instead could be diverted to your other team members. And that's because upgrading an artifact from level 16 to 20 costs almost double the amount it takes to get it to 16. And while striving to upgrade it for such an expensive investment might seem like a good idea, the first thing you need to ask yourself if it's actually worth doing it, especially if you still have other team members with mediocre or unleveled artifacts. The best example would be the consideration of getting that extra 8% attack from one of your artifacts leveled from 16 to 20, where you could instead invest the same amount of resources into a new artifact and equip other team member with extra 39% of attack. Of course, it's not that simple, and you're also missing out on an extra substat upgrade you would gain on level 20 artifact, and if you apply this reasoning for all equipped artifacts, you are essentially neglecting 5 extra substat gains, but the cost of getting these artifacts leveled to 20 is almost equal to getting 5 new artifacts from 0 to 16 instead. Basically, it's only a good idea to pursue a level 20 artifact if you're going to be using them on your main damage dealer, but the rest of your teammates should be using level 16 5-star artifacts at best before you move on to upgrade everyone's artifacts to their max level. And if you're just starting out or still on your way to adventure rank 45, where you are guaranteed to get 5-star artifacts from domains, you should really only bother investing into 4-star artifacts, but make sure not to go too heavy on them, since there are more permanent upgrades that require your attention, like ascending your characters, upgrading weapons, and leveling up talents. Finally, if you do ascend your characters, a lot of experienced players like to leave most of the characters level 60 or 70 after unlocking their second passive talent, since the stats you gain afterwards are less influential on your performance, unless of course you already have a lot of characters waiting at these levels. While doing every new domain and leyline is an exciting benchmark to evaluate your team's power, things can get a little tiresome after a while. So in 1.1, MiHoYo introduced condensed resin, which is an unlockable schematic after you reach reputation level 3 with Liyue City. And the reason why we have this item is to speed up the rate at which we spend resin, which results in less time you needing to repeat the same domain or leyline over and over. And while it does work wonders, you're still left with a task to gather crystal cores which are needed to create condensed resin, and some of the more popular spots that players like to use to quickly stock up on this material includes Statue of the Seven at Windrise location, where you can grab few of them floating around, and then at the entrance of the domain of Guyun, where you can additionally catch fireflies that give luminescent spines that are needed for creating a personal teleporter, which you can unlock after reaching reputation level 6 with Mondstadt. But if you're interested to discover more effective farming routes, make sure to follow us on Twitter, link in the description. Basically, these 2 routes take less than few minutes and gets you roughly 6 to 9 crystal cores that will last you for a few days, and this can be repeated daily. Just make sure you're doing this at night time so the tiny creatures can spawn. In essence, players are doing this so they can save their time and even resources like food or Statue of the Seven's healing power by using condensed resin to get double the amount of rewards without needing to do the domain or leyline one additional time. Probably one thing that's hardest to give advice on, since it's mainly based on impulsive spending, revolves around wishing for new characters. Even the most seasoned veterans of Gacha Gaming will tell you that resisting the temptation to get a new shiny character is very hard, especially if you're trying to save up. But those who have the willpower to resist should save up roughly 12,000 Primo Gems if you're willing to gamble on the 50-50 chance of pulling the featured character, or 28,800 Primo Gems if you want to have an absolute guarantee that you will get the 5-star that's in the event. However, because of the so-called pity system in the game, and the fact that once the current wishing event ends and a new one starts, your progress towards the pity of getting a 5-star is saved up and carries over to the next event. What's even better, if you get a 5-star that's not featured on the event, you are guaranteed to get the featured one as your next pity award. So if during Zhongli event you get any other 5-star, if you wait until Albedo or Ganyu, one of them will be the next guaranteed 5-star character. And this also means that you need to stay laser focused and not go to the other 2 wishing options, where you can either get the feature weapon or or any of the other always available characters. There's a reason why experienced players call these two other options a place for the heavy spenders to support the game, unless you're truly happy with all the characters you own and are willing to skip the promotional event character instead, but even then, you are missing out on unlocking additional constellations because of the increased chance of getting duplicate 4-star characters, which usually bring a lot more power than a fresh new character. But to summarize, there's a couple of things experienced players like to do, and one of them includes not overspending on upgrading their 5-star artifacts to level 20 and instead keeping them at level 16, and the only exception to this resource optimization would be the main damage dealer, which benefits the most from this expensive venture. However, the less artifacts, resin and more you spend on maxing out your 5-star artifacts, the more you can focus on getting more level 16 artifacts for the rest of your team, especially if you're trying to already optimize those pesky substats. And when it comes to farming domains and ley lines, there's nothing better than using condensed resin to help you out, and using few quick locations to gather the materials for creating this useful item can be done in a minute or two. Finally, wishing in Genshin Impact is one of the most exciting features in the game, and going in with a plan, especially if you have a long-term goal, will help you out with getting that 5-star you truly want. Let us know in the comments which character you're saving up your Primo Gems for. Also, don't forget to subscribe and enable the bell notification on, as well as make sure to gently press the like button. Thank you for watching us.